championship game scores, which will lead us into the preview and all of that, and then right into some Eagles talk. So yesterday in the NHL, you had the Red Wings fall to the Blackhawks 6-2. The Sabres in the shootout beat the Capitals 4-3. Golden Knights blanked the Coyotes 1-0. The Maple Leafs defeat the Flames 3-2. The Islanders fall to the Devils 2-0. The Rangers fall to the Penguins 3-2. The Predators fall to the Stars also by a score of 3-2. The Kings beat the Blues 6-3. The Sharks outlast the Wild 5-3. The Avalanche fall to the Ducks 3-1. And the Oilers outlast the Jets 4-3. Tonight's schedule in the NHL, you have the Senators at the Canucks. The Flyers' next game will be Tuesday at the New Jersey Devils. Moving on with some more scores for you, NBA scores, and I'll come back to the schedule for tonight towards the end of the show and give you tonight's NBA schedule. Yesterday's games: the Raptors defeat the Pacers 107-102. Thunder fall to the Clippers 108-100. The Cavs get beat up on by the Celtics 141-103. The Hornets just get by the Magic 107-104. The Wizards fall to the Spurs 121-101. The Hawks fall to the Bucks 129-115. The Blazers get by the Knicks 116-113. And due to COVID issues continuing, the Kings-Grizzlies game was postponed yesterday. So there you have it. Those are your scores from the NHL and the NBA for yesterday. Again, like I mentioned, I will give you the NBA schedule for tonight towards the end of the show before I close out. So yesterday, we want to get right in to this real quick. Another episode of the SportsRap podcast here on Eat 100 Radio. And we are going to get into our coverage of NFL conference championship weekend, which was yesterday, we know. And there's a lot to talk about, if you will, but I'm going to have to limit myself because I'm here in Philly and I've been following what was going on with the Eagles, and we've all been following that situation. And I have to get to some Eagles talk as well. So, first game yesterday, the NFC Championship, Tom Brady and the Bucks defeat the Packers in Green Bay 31-26 to move on to Super Bowl 55, which is Tom Brady's 10th Super Bowl appearance. Now, during that game, there was an instance late in that game, a 4th and 8 in the red zone, where Packers coach decided to kick the field goal and not attempt to go for it and take the lead in that game. I think they would have took the lead in that game and could possibly have turned the tide in their favor. So there has been plenty of talk about that, as you have seen, as I've seen as well. And I know it's 11-something. I know some of you have seen a lot of it by now. And it's a very, very questionable decision that was made by the coach. At that point, in my opinion, as a coach, the magnitude of the game, one, me being at home, me trusting my offense, trusting my quarterback, at that point, 4th and 8, in this type of game, like I said, the magnitude of the game, which is one of the biggest things, that's why I said that as number one. You could take the lead at this moment and put the pressure on the other team to have to score. And you turn the tide, so to speak, there. In my opinion, if I'm the coach there, I'm going for it. I'm going for it. You know, like I said, at worst case scenario, I get the first down and I got to try get 4 more shots at it. Because they didn't say 4th and goal. They said it was 4th and 8, if I remember correctly. 4th and 8. So that means they could have gotten the first down without getting a touchdown. you extend the game, you possibly or more than likely go on and score a touchdown. You take the lead and you put the burden on the other team. You trust your defense. You put the burden on the other team to go the length of the field and score points. So it is what it is. And again, the Bucks are going to the Super Bowl. Shout outs to Byron Leftwich and Todd Bowles. And this is kind of tying into when we talk about Deuce and some of the things I said about Deuce in the very beginning when the Eagles were initially starting their coaching search. But I'll get to that. But this is kind of relevant again. So just to them, shout outs to them too, and as well as Eric Bieniemy, African-American coaches who are doing great things. Eric Bieniemy is getting, I think, a raw deal, so to speak, as far as the coaching and as far as coaching consideration. I don't think it's as popular as it should be, in my opinion. I know he's one of the top names on the list, but I think he should be like owning this whole entire conversation. But he's about to possibly go win a back-to-back Super Bowl, and maybe things will turn around for him. Also on the other side, back at the NFC, the Bucks, Ty Bowles, what he's done with their defense. Byron Leftwich, offensive coordinator there. So shout outs to those guys for doing what they do and meeting each other in the Super Bowl. Again, I don't know what the Packers coach was thinking there at that point. You take the 3 points, you got to kick the ball. They still got to come down and score, but you just got closer where you could have taken. And again, if they might tuned in and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. They could have taken the lead if they had went for it on 4th and 8. And again, like I keep saying, it was 4th and 8. So that means you could have gotten the first down to get 4 more cracks at it before you got the touchdown and took the lead and used some more clock and really changed the momentum of that game in a few plays. So, it's just strange. And it's always strange in that realm where you have coaches that get to certain points or get to certain moments and they do things that become questionable. And I say that with saying, you look at all the success they have through a regular season, up until throughout the part of the playoffs, up until that moment. And you just think about that moment, for instance, as we're talking about it. You've made these types of decisions all season long. Your career, you've made some of these decisions before. You've got to understand again the magnitude of that moment where you started out not so great. Your guys fought back and they're in this game now, and you have an opportunity somewhat late in the game to take the lead, and you opt for the field goal. And for all intent purposes, regular season, a lot more time on the clock, I understand. Let's chip away at it right now. Let's get the short points where we can. But at that particular moment, again, 4th and 8, you got to go for it there, in my opinion, as a coach. You kind of have to go for it. And again, worst case scenario, it's like a really, really great punt where the score didn't change at all. So you still have a chance. And because if you don't get it, then they're pinned deep. And good chances that you get a stop and you get the ball right back in very, very good field position. So you kind of got two things on your side there, in my opinion. And I wish that, it would have went different. But again, like I mentioned, we always see these things pop up certain times where coaches just make these decisions, I'll call them, and they become extremely questionable after the fact. Moving on to the AFC, the Bills and the Chiefs. As you saw, Patrick Mahomes was cleared to play. He did play at a really good game yesterday. The Bills fall 38-24. I give tons of credit to the Buffalo Bills. As the season began to get towards the tail end and move into the playoffs, I constantly mentioned about the Buffalo Bills. I like their defense early in the season from the beginning. I like the defense. But as I said, as the season went on, the offense came along very well and grew on me a little bit. And I felt like they were the only ones that I felt could give Kansas City a run for their money. It started out looking pretty good yesterday. And again, like I told somebody I was talking and somebody asked me about it. And what they said to me, they said was, well, you don't fear Kansas City. I said, the only team I fear in the playoffs right now is Buffalo. Somebody was like, well, you don't fear Kansas City? They're the champs. And I said, here's the thing. And I've said this to several people before. I might even have said it a couple times here on air. But this was my thought process in that. And Kansas City, I know what they're going to do. They're either going to come out hot, or when they need to wake up, they're going to wake up and then they're going to get hot. I know that going in. So that's not an issue for me. That's not a concern. I know that's coming. If I was in that situation, or if I got put in that situation, I know going in automatically what they're going to do. So I know that if I get the jump, if I get the upper hand, I have to go for the kill immediately and make it extremely difficult for them to get hot and come back, because I know they have that capability. On the other side, with Buffalo, very good defense, vastly improved offense going into the playoffs. I felt like they were playing as a team. They were completely together. They were in sync, offense and defense. I mean, offensive players, were in sync, defense. But I mean, as a whole entire unit, locker room, sideline, they felt to me like they were a unit. And their play just was very, very good down the stretch. And those are the teams, or the types of teams, that in some situations, or in a lot of situations, bite you when you don't want to be bitten. Unfortunately, it didn't happen yesterday. And me sitting here now reflecting and thinking back on that game, I'm going to go with experience. And I thought this when I even said that I felt like they were the only team that I felt could give Kansas City a run for their money. And I felt like that no matter what. But shortly after that, I felt like if they lose, it will more than likely be the experience factor. So that's where I'm going to go with that. I think Kansas City was the veteran team, the veteran coaching staff. They've been there before. They were there just their last season. And those type of teams know how to win games. And the talent and the speed that they have on that team is just amazing. The coaching staff is very, very good. The defense is good. So, and again, it's that veteran presence there where these guys have been through this. So it's like another game for them almost. For Buffalo, I'm sure they weren't that far shook, but I'm sure there was some nervousness there. Your first time there for most of those players. And again, I think the experience took over as far as the game within the game. And I still like Buffalo. I still give them a lot of credit for what they did. Very, very good season in Buffalo. And definitely proud of them for what they did. Coming from where they came from, the progress they've made over this past couple years into where they are now as a powerful team in the AFC within the NFL. So now I'm going to move that. Well, again, before I move on, now we know that Super Bowl 55 is now set. Kansas City Chiefs versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ironically, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will make history, the first team in NFL history to play the Super Bowl in their home stadium. And again, Tom Brady's 10th appearance in the Super Bowl. Before I get into my Eagles talk, just so I can take a quick break here, just a second, I also have to take a moment and pay homage, pay tribute to one Hank Aaron, who passed away on Friday at the young age of 86. And not only a baseball legend, but truly, truly a legend in general, on and off the field. I only know the history, but the history that I know is amazing and set the home run record, 755 home runs. The barriers and things that he had to deal with throughout the bigger portion of his career. Did it with class, grace, and took over that lead in the record books, which still stands today, which I think is going to stand for a very, 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 very long time. So the things that he has done for young black men at that time, for young black men now, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Going to miss him. R.I.P. Rest well, Mr. Hank Hammer and Hank Aaron. Thank you, folks. So now I am going to get into some Eagles talk. And we all know what's been going on with the Eagles. That there's been talk of Carson Wentz putting out one to be traded and this and that, and then they fired Doug Peterson, and people were saying that, oh, they forgot they fired the wrong person, they should have fired Howie. People are saying they should have fired both of them. Is Carson Wentz going to get traded? Is he going to stay? So first, people, I tell you all the time, and as we do here, we like to keep you abreast of the entire situation so you have a cleaner look at the broader picture. You have to understand the severe cap hit that would come if Carson Wentz was traded this season. The Eagles and Jeffrey Lurie are not right now willing to take that cap hit. So it was been reported and been rumored that they were telling coaching candidates that Carson Wentz was going to be here. He was going to be the quarterback moving forward. We'll get into the conversation about the coaching discussions and all that, okay? Then Doug gets fired. Then there's a slight change. Maybe Carson does want to stay. Maybe he'll still ask for a trade. Then there's Howie, who's still around. Didn't get fired. Didn't even look like there was the thought of moving on from Howie Roseman at this point. I think the issue became with Doug, where Doug wanted to go in a different direction. Some things were possibly said or some things were disagreed upon, and then they ultimately made their decision. So, moving along, they end up interviewing Josh McDaniels. They bring him back for a second interview. And then reports are out that it's looking like he is pretty much the shoo-in for the job, Then along comes Nick Sirianni. And all throughout this whole conversation with the Carson Wentz situation, with him being benched, and then at the end of the season talking about being traded or wanting to be traded, the Colts kept coming up in all of this. Why? Because of Frank Reich, who was here when Carson Wentz was having his the Super Bowl season 2017. He was having the Pro Bowl MVP type season. So there was always talk about possibly reuniting in some type of way. So what the Eagles do is they don't go out and get Frank Reich. They bring what they can from Frank Reich to Carson Wentz and hiring Nick Sirianni as their new head coach. He was the past offensive coordinator for the Indianapolis Colts under Frank Reich, who made the playoffs this year with 11-5 record. They also brought in another assistant from the Colts, Kevin Patullo, as the passing game coordinator. Third one from the Colts, Jonathan Gannon, is now the defensive coordinator, who was also the former cornerback coach or the D-back coach of the Colts. They are retaining Jeff Stoutland as the offensive line coach, and they are expected to hire Auburn defensive line coach Tracy Rocker for the same position within the Eagles organization. They were set to interview 2 gentlemen for their offensive coordinator position, and just reported this morning they have hired Shane Steichen. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Shane Steichen, the Chargers offensive coordinator, who is arguably and pretty consistently spoken about in being the spearhead in the things that Mr. Herbert did, the rookie quarterback out there in LA with the Chargers this past season. So maybe there can be some things done with Carson Wentz going along. Maybe Sirianni can fix Nick Foles. I'm sorry, not Nick Foles, Carson Wentz. Now, the issue or the problems become is the simple fact that we know that this guy, he's not some type of guru or anything like that. He was the offensive coordinator. Now he's going to be the head coach. But he brought in, I'm guessing, people that he's familiar coaching with, that understand his system, or understand the things that he would like to do. And I also understand that he was willing to take the job as long as he was able to assemble and hire his own coaches. And apparently it looks like the Eagles have let him do that, and they're bringing whatever they can from Frank Reich back to the Eagles and back to Carson Wentz. Mark Murray, thanks for tuning in. And you say, will Hurts be the starting quarterback next season? I honestly don't think so. I think what will happen is they will attempt to prepare both of them and make it appear as a quarterback competition in training camp. I also think that the offense that they have possibly in store from what I'm thinking, is somewhat more suitable to Carson Wentz, only because Jalen Hurts has the ability and the talent to use his legs a lot more than Carson Wentz does, a lot more athletic. So I don't know, but I think what they'll try to do is try to prepare both of them for that offense and have it the A side for Carson Wentz and then the B side for Jalen Hurts, where they could throw in some things to, or wrinkle some things, or tweak some things to use his ability to use his legs and other things in that situation. So we'll definitely see with that. But some of the things that they say to consider about Nick Sirianni, and I'm going to give you some good things and some bad things. Some of the good things. Bradley Day says, I don't think so. Maybe if he gets hurt or not going well. Yeah, I don't think Hurts would be the starter either. You're right. One of some of the good things. Andrew Luck had the best completion percentage, passer rating, and sack percentage of his career in 2018. He also fumbled the fewest amount of times. All this is under the tutelage of Nick Sirianni. Jacoby Brissett was tied with Tom Brady for the 18th best passer rating in 2019. The Colts won 7 games with the guy who belongs as a backup, which is pretty solid, they say. Phillip Rivers had the 3rd highest completion percentage, the 6th highest passer rating, and the 2nd lowest sack percentage in the final season of his career last year. He also had his 4th and 5th highest completion percentages, with Sirianni serving as the San Diego Chargers quarterbacks coach. 2 of Rivers' 5 lowest seasons in terms of interception percentage came while working with Sirianni. So maybe he can do some things with quarterbacks. And you look at the quarterbacks that they're talking about: Andrew Luck, Phillip Rivers, very comparable to Carson Wentz and what we saw from Carson Wentz coming in early in his career, especially that 2017 season, that arguably MVP type season until the injury. Now, some of the bad. When he has served as either offensive coordinator or QB coach, his starting quarterbacks have a combined 42 and 41 record. QB wins doesn't always offer the most context, but being barely above 500 isn't the most encouraging look. I totally agree with that. Rivers made the Pro Bowl in 4 out of 5 seasons before Sirianni became his QB coach. Rivers made the Pro Bowl 0 times when Sirianni was his QB coach. Rivers made the Pro Bowl 3 straight years after Sirianni moved out of the QB coach position. Yeah, Mark, that dump is way too much. Way too much. That's why they're not looking to trade him right now. Out of 15 seasons as a starter, Rivers only had his 8th and 9th best passer rating when Sirianni was his coach. Rivers tied Jay Cutler for the NFL lead in interceptions during Sirianni's first year as QB coach. So that's what they say about one Nick Sirianni. But also the flip side to that, folks, is Carson Wentz has to own it, and he has to fix himself or help fix himself. He has to get in the film room, get on the practice field, get the workouts in, get in early and talk to these coaches and see what they want to do and work on this stuff. He's got to get his head straight first. So I understand this break. Hopefully he's getting it together. I'm hoping that the trade talks and everything will subside for now, and he can get an issue since they are assembling a staff. They can get a chance to speak to him, let them know what direction they want to go in, and he can get himself together and help fix himself and not put so much on the coaching staff to have to try and fix him. There has to be a very long thought process for the Eagles, again, when it comes to the draft, because they have to help the coaching staff. They have to help Carson Wentz, where they have to get some more talent around him. They did not move on from Alshon Jeffrey, and he'll still be around. We don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Jackson, who can hardly stay on the field at this point in his career. Some of the young guys have shown promise, but we'll have to see. Miles Sanders, very good running back, one of the keys in the offense. You've got to work on that offensive line. You have to try at least and bring back Ertz if you can. Although you have Goddard to back him up, but you have to be very, very strategic and well thought out, very concise with this draft, because this is going to, Bradley says they need a total rebuild. I wouldn't say necessarily a total rebuild. There are plenty of holes that need to be fixed. I also think that with the new coaching staff could possibly breathe some life into some of these guys. I'm not blaming everything on the coaching staff, but I just don't think that the coaching staff got everything that they could out of the entire team. So maybe some new blood on that side will spark some things and get some people to some motivation. Do I think Hurts deserves the starting position? Is that what you're saying, Mark? If so, hard to judge on a couple games and the fact that he got pulled in that last game. So it's really hard to tell. In that moment, those couple games, those few games that he played, he really had nothing to lose. So there was no pressure on him. He could just go out and play. That's why I say it's hard for me to kind of gauge it. Like I said, especially with him being benched in that last game, where you could have begun to see something, because he had to come back. So you could have begun to see something in that game. He earned the starting spot? I mean, I think he earned a shot. Like I said, with the little bit that we saw and the way that Carson Wentz was playing, and as long as they let it go. So again, like I said, when he did come in, he was freewheeling. He had no pressure really to play. He just could go out there and play. And like I said, I would have loved to have seen what he could have done in that game to come back possibly and win that game. It would have showed me something. Like I said, the beginning of something possibly could have been seen in that moment, but we'll never know now. Again, like I said, I think they will. The way I looked at the Colts and the things that I've been reading and hearing about the new coaching hire, Sirianni, and everything that he's bringing from the Colts, I'm thinking, again, that what they'll do in training camp is try to get both of these guys up to speed with their particular scheme. Like I said earlier, an A side and a B side. An A side would be for Carson Wentz, and then the B side would be with the little tweaks in certain areas for the skill set of Jalen Hurts on the other side. But I think that's what they did when Frank Reich was here, when Nick Foles was the backup, that scheme was set for them, and it was set so it looked like that they went through it with both of them, and they didn't miss a beat really with Nick Foles. They had to tweak a little bit, but they didn't really miss that much of a beat at that point. So I think that's what they'll try and do, being offspring of Frank Reich. I think that's what they may try and do, just prepare both of them in training camp for the system. I'm not going to say for the starting position, but prepare both of them for the system. And then as they progress, see who picks up things a lot faster, see who gets comfortable faster in that system. So that's where I'm at with that so far with the Eagles. But again, like I said, the Eagles went and felt like they could bring some semblance of Frank Reich back, and that's what they did. And that's what the gentleman that they hired did. He brought some pals with him from that system. Like I said, guys who he probably feels comfortable working with guys who he feels already have a great grasp of his system and understanding of his system and can implement things that he can trust at those positions. It is now 11:56. Before we go, it's playing out like a typical Philly team situation, fair weather fan and organization. You know, they don't like to divert from their comfortability level much, Mark. So that's why I said they went and got what they could from Frank Reich and brought it back to Carson Wentz. 11:57 now, past the hour, 57 minutes past the hour. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I'm going to definitely get into the Deuce Daily conversation, the Deuce Daily dialogue, and I'm sure I'll have some other people tuning in with that. So stay tuned, folks. You are listening to Sports Rap Heat 100 Radio with your boy, Sports Rap D. I'll see you on the other side. Just a few minutes.